Hello guys. Today I'm gonna show you guys how to do the revising editing part. And this is from the 2021 SHSAT Handbook. And in particular, I'm gonna try to focus on how you guys can use the answer key to better study for the test, because I feel like the answer key is extremely helpful to learning and understanding like what the test wants you to answer, right? The test isn't an IQ test. It's just testing, can you answer it in the way it wants you to answer. There's only one right answer, right? And even if you think another answer is better, you just want to answer it in the way the test wants you to answer it. So you have to try to mold your mindset into a testing answer rather than what you think the answer is, right? So that might have been a little confusing, but I'm just trying to say answer it how the test wants you to answer, right? And you just have to learn that, right? So I'm going to show you guys what that means, and I'm going to show you how to do that with the answer key, right? So question 1 asks, what is the best way to combine the sentences, right? Scientists now believe that Jupiter may have as many as 79 moons. One of Jupiter's moons is named Io. Well, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but Io has the greatest number of active volcanoes in the solar system, right? So if we read through I'm gonna read through the answer choices, and I'm gonna tell you why I think it's wrong, right? So let's read answer choice A. Io, which is one of Jupiter's moons, has the greatest number of active volcanoes in the solar system. Okay, I think that part sounds pretty nice, but this part just sounds bad. And then they add, and scientists now believe that Jupiter may have as many as 79 moons. So the reason why this is probably not the best way to combine sentences is because it mentions Jupiter twice, right? Io, which is one of Jupiter's moons, and then scientists now believe that Jupiter may have as many as 79 moons. There's definitely a way to combine these three sentences, so you can only you only have to use Jupiter once, because it's just like kind of lengthy and pointless to say it twice, which is what asking the best way to combine the sentences mean. They just want the most precise, clear, concise way to have one sentence with all this info, right? So I don't think it's A. Scientists now believe that Jupiter may have as many as 79 moons, and one of them is named Io, which has the greatest number of active volcanoes in the solar system. I think this one's alright, but we can just keep going. Scientists now believe that Jupiter may have as many as 79 moons. So now we see that the beginnings are the same, right? Including one named Io, which has the greatest number of active volcanoes in the solar system. Well, clearly these two are like almost exactly the same, except the transition, and one of them is named Io, including one named Io. Well, this one's just shorter, and low-key sounds better, right? So I'm pretty sure it's C. If D is not better than C, then C is probably the answer, because C is better than B. So C is my best choice right now. And Io, a moon with the greatest number of active volcanoes in the solar system, is one of Jupiter's moons, and scientists now believe Jupiter may have as many as 79 moons. So yeah, this one's pretty bad. They say the word moon like 3 times. Right? And you can see in this answer choice, it's only one moon, right? Which means it's shorter, more concise. And this is the shortest answer choice. So during the test, I don't know if this applies to the SHSAT, but for the SAT, if you really don't know which one sounds better, usually the shorter one is better, right? So yeah, I am correct. If you got this wrong, I try to explain it, but the answer key, I swear, explains it the same way as I do, right? It's just pretty lengthy too, but that means like you can learn a lot from it, right? So I don't think we need to read that one, but we can keep going. Which revision corrects the error in sentence structure in the paragraph? In September 2016, the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened as part of the Smithsonian Institution. The museum is already the Smithsonian's third most popular site. Well, I already concede this sentence is wrong because it has two independent clauses, and I'll explain shortly what that means. So in September 2016, the National Museum of African American History and Culture opened as part of the Smithsonian Institution. That is a sentence already, right? That's basically what an independent clause means. That's what's independent. It can stand alone. That's what independent means, right? Like you can do stuff alone. You're an independent adult, right? You just can live as by yourself, basically, right? So this sentence is basically a standalone sentence. And then you see this part. The museum is already the Smithsonian's third most popular site. This is a standalone sentence too, right? Which is just, how can you have two standalone sentences in one sentence, right? Which is why, in order to fix this issue, when you have two independent clauses, you need to add a coordinating conjunction, which is and, right? So the conjunctions are like, I remember it by Fanboys: for, and, nor, but, or, yet. So yeah, Fanboys. But yeah, basically you just can't have two sentences in one sentence. You need something to connect them, or just separate them into one sentence, right? So yeah, 2 is definitely E. I don't think I need to go over the rest. Okay, 3. So this one's really easy, I think. Uses the most precise language. That basically means which one is the most detailed, right? Which one sounds smarter. The Appalachian Trail is a really long trail that a lot of people do each year. So, I mean, this sentence is like pretty basic. It's a sentence, right? Extremely describes the trail, which is basically really. So, I mean, it's slightly better than really. So, I guess it's about the same as this one. 2200 mile is much better because it's very specific in the distance of the trail, right? So you have extremely, 2200, and lengthy. 2200s are definitely better, right? And also here's a trick. If you don't know anything, right? If they have 2 of the same answer choices and the other ones are different, usually it's between these 2, because most people will like the point of the test answer choices are to try to make you get it wrong, right? And trick you up, right? So if they have like 2 of the same, this can trick people up because like they have to choose one or the other, right? So usually I'm just saying, if the 2 answer choices are the same, one of those 2 are probably the answers. And then it says more than 1 million compared to 2 million. Well, obviously 2 million is much more specific than more than 1 million. That's like saying more than one person compared to this one just saying 2 million, right? So C is definitely the best answer here. Okay. In 1962, the agile, athletic Wilt Chamberlain became the first and only professional basketball player in the United States to score 100 points in a single game. The answer should be E, because when you have these 2 adjectives, you need a comma in between them. Usually, or comma, or like a conjunction, like and, right? In 1962, the agile and athletic Wilt Chamberlain, right? So, because like these are 2 adjectives, and usually you cannot have it's weird to have one adjective describe another adjective, because usually that's an adverb, right? But these are both describing Wilt Chamberlain. So yeah, you need to separate it. The rest, if you do it yourself, should be fine. Alright, so if we read the answer key here, E is correct. You need to separate the adjectives. You need to use a comma or and. Yeah, so that's basically what I've been saying, right? But yeah. So we can just look at the part where it asks for, right? Either you delete a comma after homes. Let's read that. When the coal was used to heat homes, it frequently left soot stains on the walls. Well, you definitely need this comma, right? Because this is a independent clause, and this is a dependent clause. Like, when coal was used to heat homes cannot be a standalone sentence. So it gives a time that describes this sentence, right? So yeah, you need the comma. Change becomes to became. Well, since we know we need the comma, it must be one of these two, right? So it's either change becomes to became or change remarked to had remarked, right? So let's read remarked. In her classroom, so he remarked, like, even though it sounds weird, it should be right, because had remarked sounds even worse. Then one day, Joe McVicker, Cleo's son, learned that his sister-in-law had been using the substance for art projects in her classroom. So he remarked so he had remarketed the product as the toy known as Play-Doh. Yeah, I don't think it's had, but even if you don't know if it's this one, just read becomes to became. Like, over time, as natural gas becomes more common, people had little need for soot cleansers. So you can see that they're still talking about the past tense. People had, right? Over time, as natural gas becomes is present tense. Like, I become a great player, or like, that doesn't really make sense. I'm sorry, but like, he becomes cool. You know what I mean? That's present tense, but they have a past tense sentence, so you definitely need became, right? Over time, as natural gas became more common, people had little need for soot cleansers. Okay. Now, we're on part B, which is the part that answer key, I think, is much more important to studying, right? So read the passage on your own, but I'm gonna just hop right into it. So here you go. Wait, hold up. Okay, which revision of sentence 2 uses the most precise language? So this is sentence 2, right? According to study, oh shoot, I'm on the wrong passage. Sorry. Here you go. These are the people who spend their free time volunteering at various places within the people. So what's vague here is the people, right? And I guess at various places. Those are the keywords. If it wants more precise, definitely need like these two to be more in depth. The various places and the people. So people, this is vague. I mean, they all have people now, so it's actually the part after, right? Who spend their free time helping others, spend time working, spend a lot of free time volunteering. Well, I guess they're all about the same. So let's look at the places then. Animal shelters, activities in community centers, cleaning up parks. I think this is pretty descriptive, right? Numerous ways at a variety of places. This is bad. This is not specific at all, right? Numerous ways. What ways? Variety of places. What places? You know what I mean? Working at local establishments. Well, local establishments is better than the original sentence 2, right? But it's not that good, right? Compared to this one. Animal shelters, community centers. And this one's just very general, so I think it's pretty obvious it's E, right? Okay, question 7. So sentence 4 is here. However, research shows that those who volunteer also receive benefits, right? So if you're given a main claim of the passage, they want the main idea, right? And it says to introduce it, right? So this is an introduction sentence to the rest of the passage, right? So figure out what the passage is about, right? You can usually do this just by reading the first sentence. For many students, this proposition might sound impossible. Well, he's talking about how volunteering can be possible, right? And then he talks about why volunteering is good. It's good for their college apps, and they gain skills, right? They benefit more than students applying to college. They demonstrate initiative, dedication, strong work ethic, right? And they make a positive investment in their future. So basically, they're convincing you to volunteer, right? So let's look at A. With that in mind, high school students should consider engaging in some form of regular volunteerism. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. High school students should volunteer. That's basically what the passage is about. What's wrong with B is like it talks about both immediate and long-term results. Like the passage doesn't really talk about results in particular. It just talks about the benefits of it, right? Results are weird. And the main problem is guaranteed. Nowhere does it say it's guaranteed. That's like saying if you watch this video, you're guaranteed to get into Stuyvesant. Like, I don't know. And a lot of, like, when there are extreme words, like every time or like guaranteed or always, usually you have to be careful with those words because extremes are hard to prove, right? Studies has shown that volunteerism can be beneficial for students. The family is what threw me off here because nowhere does it talk about family, right? Helping others can strengthen their communities. Yes, it can strengthen their communities, right? And it does mention about the community, but it's more about persuading you to volunteer. So it's definitely A, right? Question 8. Which sentence is the least relevant to the ideas presented in the second paragraph? 5 to 10. Well, you can see a pattern here, right? Schoolwork takes a lot of time. Extracurriculars take a lot of time. Family obligations take a lot of time, right? But how can you say volunteering takes a lot of time when you didn't even volunteer yet, right? This proposition may sound impossible. So they're basically trying to say, yes, students have a lot to do, right? But they should still volunteer, right? So this just doesn't match how the rest of the paragraph is about. Oh, students have so much work. Like, they're saying volunteering is a lot of work. That's not, I don't know. That just doesn't fit, right? We can look at the answer key and we'll definitely say, what question is that? Question 8. Okay. Time and energy are required for volunteering, which it interrupts the flow of the paragraph into a general list of activities and commitments. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense if you're talking about stuff, all the stuff they have to do, and then try to convince them to volunteer, and then say also volunteering takes a lot of time. Like, the whole paragraph is about how students have a lot to do. Like, why would they want more stuff to do? Question 9. So I think this question was actually pretty hard, right? False sentence 12, right? So this talks about colleges and how admission counselors want to see students volunteer, right? So if we look at part A, students show they are likely to be responsible, reliable, and helpful young adults. Admission counselors know that character traits like these will benefit the applicants as well as whoever they interact with. I mean, I think it's true, but whomever they interact with is more about like the people they're helping, right? But this is more like about you should help rather than whoever you're helping will be very appreciative of you. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's not a bad choice. We can keep going. Volunteering can help students who meet new people who can provide valuable references. Well, this is just wrong. Like, yes, you can like meet new people, but like that doesn't go along with this part, which is about college admission counselors, right? Like, why would you add meet new people in a paragraph about college admission counselors, right? The counselors who hope that young adults who demonstrate this behavior go on to volunteer during the college years, working on campus and student government leadership programs, or serving the community. While this is true and it does sound pretty good, I think what's off with it is it talks about the future, but the paragraph talks about students applying to college. Like, they're not even in college yet, so how can they, like, why does it matter what they will do? I mean, this question is really hard. We should probably look at what the answer key says. It's question C. It focuses on what the students will do in college rather than how volunteering helps them to get into college. Yeah, so this paragraph basically talks about, oh, you should do it to get into college, not what will happen in the future when you're at college, right? So I think the answer choice is D. Many colleges are looking for students who are not just academically successful, but also who work well with others and care about improving and serving surrounding communities, right? It supports the ideas in the third paragraph because it provides additional details about why admissions look beyond the academics when considering students for admissions. So yeah, this basically sums up it's helpful to get into college. And our last question, question 10. Which conclusive sentence should replace 22? 22 is, though managing different commitments may seem overwhelming at times, students are sure to feel a sense of fulfillment in volunteerism. That is true, but the passage is about convincing you to volunteer, right? So we gotta find an ending sentence that convinces you to volunteer. That sums up all the arguments here, right? Like, you can get into college, right? You can learn valuable skills, right? So this one depends on support and commitment of hardworking young people. Yeah, that's true, but that doesn't make me want to volunteer, or it doesn't talk about the arguments given why I should volunteer, right? Clearly, students who volunteer will experience a host of benefits, such as learning new skills, meeting interesting people, opening up opportunities for the future, and gaining a sense of satisfaction. I mean, honestly, that's a pretty good choice. It has a host of benefits, right? When students carefully evaluate their activities and prioritize volunteerism, they find a way to work it into their schedule and soon encouraging their peers to do the same. I don't think it ever talks about encouraging other peers to volunteer. It just talks about convincing yourself to volunteer. So this doesn't sum it up well, right? Even if it's true, it does not sum it up well, right? You don't want to add new info in a ending sentence. You just want to sum up what's given. Whether they are seeking admission to college, preparing to enter the workforce, or simply looking to reduce stress, high school students who volunteer can help themselves as much as they help others. So it's either F or H. And I think this is a very slight difference, but H should be better because experience a host of benefits. That is true, but they want to like convince you to volunteer, right? So just like if you're seeking admission to college if you're trying to get a job, if you're looking to reduce stress, you should volunteer, right? And if we read the answer key for that, it says, because it lists specific reasons for volunteering, and best supports the main argument that volunteering not only helps students, but can help their community, right? And then F was the second best choice. We can read why it's incorrect. While the sentence supports the argument that students will experience a host of benefits through volunteerism, it should not replace sentence 22 because it does not best support the main argument that volunteering benefits both the students and the community. So yeah, they want to convince you that you're volunteering because it also it's like a two-way path. It helps you and helps people, and you have to talk about helping both you and the person. I mean, you and your community, right? So help themselves as much as they help others.